Mhm. Good evening. No need to stand. Why you are making me? So, what do you think? I was not well. But this is not the time to ask. Anyhow, so this topic is a bit technical and not that much depth needed, just to know some of the cases. Yes, although it is written in quite a bit detail, but you don't need to know that much detail. Telling in outset, already that day we had discussion about electoral bond, so you can see that also. You will understand also when you have a bit of polity knowledge, because without that it is difficult to understand, especially the case laws. Yes, so that we can see. Since nowadays they are asking question also related to case laws. So even if you know about electoral bond, but we do not know the case laws, so there can be challenge. Yes. Although some cases already you know, in 2, 3 those cases even you referred, so it is workable. Means the answer can be workable, not necessarily fine. This. So this way. So we'll give basically the judgment. So just to recapitulate what the judgment was, it is related to, let's say that 13A of People Act. Oh, and there are three things. This. Hmm. Yes. Now that day we told that okay, how it is violative of this. We mentioned also this and that. But basically they have gone into looking into, basically let's say that okay, if you look into details of the judgment, so this judgment does not need any new light. Already in past there were so many cases and simply if Supreme Court reviewed those cases, so they can become basis to declare it unconstitutional. Because in past they have dealt similar matters not once, several times. So we don't know why they delayed this case. Why they delayed this case? They should have given the judgment in 2019 itself, rather than in 2024. This, like, let's say that this they are tracing this. Now we have to prove this 19(1)(a) in relation to Right to Information Act. This they have tried to relate with this Article 19(1) with Right to Information Act. And this Right to Information Act has two parts. One, they relate to this Rajnarayan judgment case. And second, they relate to this SP Gupta case. This now it becomes even more explicit, which you can relate when you read even RTI, that the root of RTI lies in Rajnarayan case, where they have, if you read the statement given, details what they speak in that Rajnarayan case, that people have right to know. Even in SP Gupta case, government argued that government is not supposed to provide information related to elections, but government, especially P.N. Bhagwati that time, so Bhagwati, you know that he retorted or he questioned this, and he says that no, information is essential for people, they should get that information. This, so that is how the first part, this, it is the first part of the, let's say that transparency they are trying to relate. The second part of this, which we have written phase 1, phase 2 type of thing, right? So second phase is related to there are so many cases, but we have tried to keep only major cases, not still so many things have been mentioned. ADR. So in ADR judgment, basically in 2002, Supreme Court says, means it passed an order that citizens should know the antecedents of candidates in elections. That's why you know that in election disclosures, when candidates go and file their nominations, they have to disclose their antecedents, including, let's say, their criminal antecedents, others, which they have further, let's say, that added and advanced by other such order. More importantly is Lok Prahari case in 2021. This, where they have given guidelines also of this, let's say that 2020 and 21 two times. So yes, in 2018, then in 2020 and 2021. This, let's say, cases are related. The last one is related to Ashwani Upadhyaya case. So here they say that antecedents, citizens, they should know the antecedents of those candidates filing nomination. What government did is government nullified this order of the court by bringing an amendment, let us call 33B in Representation of People Act. When court says that if citizens should know the antecedents of candidates when they file nomination, the government did not agree with the judgment. Hence, government introduced amendment in Representation of People Act, and it added 33B in Representation of People Act, nullifying that judgment. And then let's say that this People Union of Civil Liberty 2003, this amendment is challenged in the court, and in this judgment, court nullified section 33B. This. So it means it was already there. This judgment, if you are reading, already it was established that RTI is flowing from 19(1)(a) and citizens have their right to know, right? This they have, because they have established here that they have right to know about the, let's say, antecedents of candidates filing their nomination. This, which they have taken into consideration while passing this. And that is how they are trying to establish this RTI means transparency. You can consider right to know. We can consider with Article 19(1)(a), and on this basis they have told that it violates the electoral bond scheme, violates this RTI coming from this. Plus, they have also referred past such cases related to Indian Express case and other cases which you read in relation to Article 19(1)(a). This, which we have not mentioned because they are very traditional and conventional type. This, so that is what, let's say that key. I guess it is written in the notes that you have, isn't it? Those things are mentioned if you read. So this way we can link that key, this RTI and Article 19(1)(a), close nexus. Then violation of this Article 21. As we told that day that it is Puttaswamy case. This. When we mention it on major aspects, so by this आप काम चला सकते हो, right? By this only we can mention and tell. But let's say they have tried to invoke some other things. Here they have brought doctrine of double proportionality. This. So this, let's say we just used to say doctrine of proportionality. Even they have tried to, let's say, bring doctrine of pre-proportionality, proportionality, double proportionality, but we will not go into that details. फिर वो law optional पढ़ाने लायक हो जाएगा. This, maybe in future it comes, so we can take that discussion. What is doctrine of double proportionality, or how they have tried to link it with privacy? It's how this, let's say Article 21 they are trying to link with the amendment. Since in that it is, let's say political parties, first they don't have to maintain any record related to electoral bond contribution. Second, whatever the funds they get, they don't have to disclose it, how much fund they got. This. So, and there they invoke the idea, it is like secret ballot, that they have to maintain secrecy. This, the non-disclosure. At the same time, donors, they don't have to disclose their name. Those who are donating, they also don't have to disclose their name to political parties. Government argues that it is because of their privacy. This, those who are donors, they are not also supposed to disclose their name. And political parties are also not supposed to maintain the record and show it neither to income tax nor to election commission. This. So here they are trying to link, let's say, liberty, right to life, liberty and privacy with right to freedom, because freedom and liberty both are closely linked. This is one aspect. Second, they have tried to link with the privacy aspect of the donors, and then whether, let's say, their privacy can be given preference over citizens' right to know. This, can we give, let's say, over citizens' right to know? So here they are trying to, let's say, compare this, whether there is a hierarchy of rights. Right. Whether Constitution has created hierarchy of rights, means whether rights exist in hierarchy, right? Hence, one can be given preference over another. This. So they have told that the constitution has not created hierarchy. Right. Rather, constitution talks about this, means they are innovating called doctrine of double proportionality. Double proportionality means we can balance between two conflicting rights. Means there can be balance between two conflicting rights. And this they have tried to invoke from one UK court judgment. This in 2004. This it is written that name you can read. So I think Campbell, yes, Campbell versus MGM. Campbell versus MGM, in that UK court brought doctrine of double proportionality. This and this double proportionality they have, let's say, invoked while talking here, that there is no hierarchy of right, rather the two rights can be balanced. So when two rights can be balanced, then the question comes whether they have proportionality. Right. That is how the Puttaswamy judgment comes. This because it talks about proportionality, and Puttaswamy proportionality is double proportionality. Right. Now they are trying to lay that it is double proportionality. This balancing two, and for double proportionality you should have the three criteria: legality, legitimacy, and proportionality. And here they have, let's say, we told in that class that they have legality also, legitimacy also, but it is not proportional. It is lacking proportionality. Because they are not compromising, rather you are protecting their, because proportionality is balanced when you give and take this. So that's why they have linked with privacy aspect. Article 21. Next aspect of Article 21 they are trying to say is that they are saying that privacy under Article 21 Puttaswamy judgment that they gave is not only related to Article 21. This privacy is not only related to Article 21. Rather, they are trying to relate with Article 19 also, and they are trying to relate with Article 25, freedom of conscience. This freedom of conscience, because privacy means to be left alone, and freedom of conscience means also that one person should have, let's give freedom to take decision. And Article 21 is restricted by, let's say, that there can be restriction on Article 21 by other fundamental rights, especially 19. So that aspect also they have brought in their judgment while talking. So you will find that if you try to see the cases, it is called double proportionality, I guess, if I remember. So it is Central Information Commission Officer case, I guess. Is it like that? Yes, Supreme Court of India. There they are talking about double proportionality. Yes. And that is how we'll find this double proportionality case, Puttaswamy privacy case, linking article, let's say 21 with 19 and let's say 25, and let's say that again, let's say trying to bring in 21 with freedom of expression, and that freedom of expression is also linked to right to know this. And because of that, they have also highlighted it is violating Article 21. This that way, let's see, you'll find this. The next part, last part, is related to this called 41, and this they have tried to link with section 182 of Companies Act. This in this Companies Act, let's say, why Article 14 they are trying to bring. So they have brought, let's say, the key. Now here also case was well settled. When there was Companies Act 1956, In 1958, there was a case, related to Tata, something like this. Right. In 1958, what happens? Basically, between 1956 to 58, companies amended their laws, their own, let's say that uh, laws, and they introduced that they can give unlimited political funds. That amendment was done by companies, that they were not bound by any percentage, they can fund to political parties in unlimited fashion. Hence that judgment came 1958. This, and in that judgment, basically, since uh, Supreme Court that time was hearing, so there was no any law in Representation of People Act or any section which barred funding like unlimited funding. Therefore, court also, let's say that it did not strike the companies those amendment by the companies or whatever the steps they took. This, although court highlighted that there should not be unbound influence of money. This, but interestingly, you should know that I think it is to Companies Act 293 section 1956. This 293 section, Old Company Act 1956. In that, what they did, they introduced capping. They introduced capping on political funding. It was done by Parliament. And it is this section, when New Companies Act introduced, it becomes 182. In, let's say, Companies Act 1956, 293 section becomes in New Companies Act 182, where capping was introduced, and that capping was about 7.5%. Right. Now, let's say this time it is the government which is removing the capping. It is the government which is removing the capping. That time it was the Parliament which introduced the capping. Means Parliament introduced capping ki nahi, there should be, let's say that, limited political funding, not unbound political funding. But this time government removes that. Hence the minority judge view that time, which highlighted that money should not have unbound influence, that is cited here. This, that is how nexus between, let's say that, unbound corporate funding and influence in election. This is how they have brought one aspect. It means it was very clear. Again, already, let's say, Parliament once limited it, now Parliament is itself taking away. Second thing they have brought is called doctrine of, that day also I forgot this term. Yes, they have introduced manifest arbitrariness. This manifest arbitrariness. This manifest arbitrariness is defined by Chanchud as that when the law is not in consonance with constitutional values. He is not invoking any particular section. He is saying that the law is not in consonance with constitutional values. Right. Only they can interpret. So this is how definition is given, manifest arbitrariness. Interestingly, let's say that doctrine of manifest arbitrariness has become basis to declare many such law unlawful. Some important we have given. Right. That's why Sarah Bano case also comes. Navtej Singh case also come. This, in that we'll find this. And the case in which they have brought this doctrine, what is the name of that case?
Indian Express.
No, not Indian Express. First time this doctrine was introduced in one case.
Sharma Transport versus Government of Andhra Pradesh. Yes. Indian Express was the court reiterated in Indian Express newspaper by observing Sharma Transport versus Government of Andhra Pradesh. Wait to confirm. Indian Express case.
Yes, in Indian Express case. Indian Express case, they laid down this doctrine of manifest arbitrariness. Right? Now they have applied the same law in Shaira Bano case. They have applied the means triple talaq case. They have applied the same in Navtej Singh case. That is called section 33 of, let's say, CRPC. This 377. And they have applied in other cases. Now what is, they have invoked doctrine of manifest arbitrariness in this section also when government has amended. Right. What is that doctrine of manifest arbitrariness? That day we did not highlight basically about this. Manifest arbitrariness is that first it is unbound corporate funding. This second is that it does not distinguish between a company and a person. This a company and a person. This when electoral bond, let's say that they highlight it does not distinguish between a company and person who can fund. Third is that it does not distinguish between a profit making company and a loss making company. Right. Now you should know that when this Companies Act introduced 182, in that net profit a company should earn in last 3 years, and of that net profit it can give 7.5%. That was the original, let's say, Companies Act. Now it says that that cap is removed. Any company can fund to any percentage or any amount to political party. When a loss company can fund political party, why a loss making company will fund? Either it is legal infirmity or it is an arbitrariness. So why you have this legal infirmity in that law, or why you have left this legal infirmity? Because why a loss making company is going to fund? The loss making company will fund to seek political favor, and it gives a scope for shell companies. Shell companies, you know that, because we do have the practice of shell companies. Right. This, and that is how it is. We will link in next topic called scam. Right. It gives a scope of a scam, you can consider this, because a loss making means you should have made it clear. Even suppose you are removing capping, at least you should have mentioned a profit making company. Right. Rather than that any company can fund it. So by these provisions they are saying it has manifest arbitrariness, and they are linking it with fundamental right, Article 14, because somehow it is undermining equality. Now here again, once they go on substantive equality and procedural equality, which already they have given the judgment. They, especially in BK Pavitra case 1 and BK Pavitra case 2. This, although they have not given reference, but that's why I told that some past means polity knowledge is needed. So BK Pavitra case 1, BK Pavitra case 2, there they have given, basically in BK Pavitra 2 they have come up with the idea of substantive equality, which was related to one Karnataka related reservation law, that is called reservation in promotion. So that case they have given. Now here let's say since then we will link with political theory also, you know that. This because when corporate has unbound funding, it affects your right, one let's say person, one vote, equal influence. This, so by all these things they are trying to link with Article 14. This, and then they come with next condition within this. Next condition is called free and fair elections. Right. And in free and fair elections, let's say they have again invoked Keshwananda Bharati case. This, in which in Keshwananda Bharati case, let's say democracy, let's say, is considered a democratic governance. That aspect can be considered. They have tried to relate. Basically, they are trying to relate free and fair elections, democratic governance, and let's say that ki right to know, and let's say ki equal, let's say that ki influence. This, and hence they have linked also this section 182 with, let's say, free and fair elections, that it will violate free and fair elections. This, and on these, let's say that basis, they are just trying to say, are all these case laws which already happened in past, on those grounds, this is how they declared it unconstitutional. Yes. Plus, one thing, let's say, they have also looked into political parties and candidates. They say that political parties play important role in democracy. They are the important unit of democracy. This is how they say this. So when political parties are important unit of democracy, now they have invoked all those cases where they have referred political parties. So they have talked about Rameshwar Prasad case, Kyoto Holohan case, and other such cases, let's say. Because let's say it has come that candidate and political parties, that has come. So whether political parties should maintain record, they should not disclose. So those cases they have brought. And on that basis, they say that political party is an important unit of democracy. So basically what we come to know, let's say that the judgment is bringing some cases which can be some known cases you can know related to this called Raj Narayan case, SP Gupta case, Puttaswamy case, and then we can talk about in that side, let's see some cases related to Rameshwar Prasad, Kyoto Holohan, other aspects. There can be some unknown cases, but it is difficult to remember. Less known cases. But yes, we can say Indian Express case where manifest arbitrariness, that you can remember. And then we have brought double proportionality in, let's say that in case of Indian, it is called in this Central Information Officer versus Supreme Court. This manifest arbitrariness, that aspect, double proportionality, that aspect, plus right to know, then plus free and fair election, and right to know, this corporate influence. These are some of the things which we can just relate when we talk about case law. And that is how we can talk about this. Now let's say that it can become basis for further reforms which we are talking. Like say that when they have told that political parties are important unit of democracy, that day I told you that political funding is a public act. Although in this article we have not mentioned, because again let's say we were not able to find a particular case in which they have mentioned, but while reading, if you read the document of judgment, they have said that it's public in nature, but it is not linked to a particular case. First, second is that political parties, they say that they are the, let's say, trustee of people. They have linked political parties as trustee of people, and those who hold position, they have the fiduciary responsibility to act only in public interest. This, to act only in public interest. Now this can become basis to file another case whether political parties should come under RTI. Yes. Because when we have recognized political funding, political parties as trustee, this, so then whether, let's say that why not they should have transparency, right? That's why these cases can become basis for your further knowledge or further developments when happen. And that is how the significance we can say on this. So this is what we can say. No. Yes. Any question?
So in the judgment, the court has said that the right to information extend beyond individual candidates to encompass the very entities that shape the political landscape. So does it mean that political parties will automatically come under RTI?
Not automatically. No. unless Supreme Court passes, let's say that it passes a separate order or government brings, they will not come automatically because it is general observation. By general observation, it does not become a law. Yes. No, it gives a scope, but it is a general observation. Right? Yes.
So the three conditions are in the regarding legality, legitimacy, and proportionality. So these are under doctrine of proportionality.
They are not proportional. Yes, they can be considered doctrine of proportionality.
Similar conditions that exist for doctrine of double proportionality in this.
No. Double proportionality is simply, basically, it is trying to argue one thing: do we have a hierarchy of law? Sorry, hierarchy of rights. When you will have hierarchy of rights, then you can prefer one right over another right. This, like say, right to privacy, we can consider over right to transparency. This, so that it's a double proportionality. It does not talk, since it is a British innovation, so it does not relate to that. But yes, in Puttaswamy case, they have given the three conditions. But when the origin of the case related to UK judgment, so there they have not, let's say that, try to lay down like this.
So the doctrine of proportionality, it precedes doctrine of double proportionality in this sense, or when we said otherwise, the doctrine of proportionality started before this case. The doctrine of double proportionality, it originated in which case? If we talk in Indian context.
In Indian context, it is related to, it is mentioned there, 1958.
Central Public Information Officer.
Yes, Central Public Service, let's say, officer. Central, let's wait.
Public Information Officer, Supreme Court of India.
Basically, Information Commission Officer means one case related to that. There they have mentioned.
Doctrine of proportionality originated in which case? Doctrine of proportionality.
Doctrine of proportionality, it originated before that, which we have not mentioned. Rather, let's try to understand. What has happened is that when Puttaswamy case was being taught, we did not use the term double proportionality. Rather, we used the term proportionality. In this case, basically, since they are trying to relate with the hierarchy of rights, comparing privacy right versus right to know, they are trying to analyze whether we have hierarchy of rights at all. Already, let's say, in past, court has observed that there are no hierarchy of rights. So when they have, let's say that, told in that, so basically we have not gone into that, means it demands further going in depth of that and trying to relate it, but we have not gone into that much detail. Right. Like knowing about, as I told you that there are three stages of that: pre-proportionality, proportionality, double proportionality. Right. That way it has evolved, but we have ignored it, and I have not gone into that much details. Maybe, yes.
Based on observations that I've read, doctrine of proportionality is generally applied when the state and the right of citizens are in conflict, and doctrine of double proportionality is applied when the two rights of citizens they are in conflict. Because in this case, the right to comparison of both rights have to do with the subject, that is the citizens only. Whereas when we use doctrine of proportionality, the state is involved.
And when there is double proportionality,
the both sides they represent the citizens.
no, it's not like that. See, basically here there is corporate, citizen, and state. Basically, they are trying to analyze the three types of relationships. It is the three different types of relationship. This we can consider. In any way, let's say that it's not between two individuals. The rights, let's say, yes, fundamental rights can conflict between two individuals. Like, let's say that a case called right to protest versus right for PSP, let's say that ki convenient transportation, convenience, let's say that ki fettered, we can say transportation. When people protested, they have mentioned that case also. Some people protesting, they have blocked the road, but other people, those who are commuters, their rights are affected. Right? Their rights were affected. Then they file the case. So there are two individuals which right comes into conflict. So when right comes into conflicts, it's not between state and citizen necessarily. It can be between two different individuals. Their rights may conflict. In that they are saying that there is no hierarchy of rights. That we can give preference to one over another. Rather, there is a proportionality. That there can be balance between that person right also and this person right also. Means protesters as well as those who are commuters. Like for commuters, roads should be vacated. But for protesters, they can protest at a place where they do not, let's say that, harm the interest of commuters. The court is not saying that no, you cannot do protest on road. It is saying you can do protest, but you will not harm the rights of other citizens. It is trying to balance the both. This, that you can say as proportionality, or what we can say double proportionality. Right, because I will tell you that I have not gone into personally to so much details to have greater clarity about these let's say aspects, because it is itself that knowing and let's say talking all these things, so it is itself quite in depth. Maybe some other time or some other developments happen, so we can talk with better clarity. Right, this. Any other? So that is how we can say about case law, right? Anyhow, then someone is asking, doctrine of double force can be said as similar to harmonious construction doctrine. Harmonious construction has a different context, right? And this proportionality has a different construct, let's say. Here it is related to fundamental right. Harmonious construction can be, let's say, between, let's say, federal polity aspect also. It can be related, but they have not referred in that way. So we cannot, as of now, we may not tell what exactly can be the relationship. But because again, we have not gone into that much details to relate it. So it means it demands more clarity. Simple, let's. More clarity means it demands more study in depth, which is not needed, or it may be if in future we can deal that. The next topic we decided to deal is called state funding. It's funding of elections. Since on this topic already we have concluded. Right. Yes, I guess. You haven't got. They will give you, I guess. Funding of elections. Basically, you know that scam. This is a scam which happened in 1972. Right. In US. Richard Nixon. And it was electoral malpractice. But basically in his re-election, right, there was electoral malpractice. there was electoral malpractice, and because of this electoral malpractice, basically there was corporate, let's say that corporates were trying to influence elections. And when corporates were trying to influence elections through corporate funding, so that was basically considered as electoral malpractice, and the president had to resign. This So that time, let's say even let's say that the government was trying to suppress, let's say that other candidates, that and the way that generally governments do that. This So a similarity has been drawn with electoral bond. Why? Because in corporate, in water, in Watergate scam also, or Watergate is a name of place on that. This is how this. So in that let's say basis, there were anonymous, let's say that is how those who were funding the anonymous funding and undue influence, because there was no, let's say, capping on that. There was no capping, you can consider, and there was lack of transparency in funding. Right. So because of these factors, it was considered that electoral malpractice, and that ultimately forced him to resign. If you draw the parallel to electoral bond, you know that what has happened. It is anonymous funding, lack of transparency, and you know that we don't have to tell that which party has got, let's say, highest, let's say that funding support. The facts already shown this time also, that time also you have shown that. And even let's say year-wise facts, if you see, how we showed that after 2019, how let's say that there was a sudden drop in that funding. So that way it has been linked, and it is not only US scam happened. Scam happened in Japan also once. Scam happened in UK also. And even let's say that one leader was impeached, let's say that we find in South Africa also. So basically, if you find that electoral funding is a challenge or a problem in most of the countries. In this topic, we are going to tell you that not only some countries have best practices, but rather let's say electoral funding is a challenge in any country. And so far, hardly any country has been able to have a very satisfactory level of electoral funding with transparency. In that, very few countries will come, which they have been successful. One is called Germany, another is Japan, next is Sweden, and fourth is Canada. If you talk, let's say that clean political funding or better political funding in the world, so this is how 4 countries we have, which will refer. In this, let's say basically they will have, all the 4 will have the ban on corporate funding or restriction on corporate funding. Like Canada, you can see this. And if you take Sweden, they have completely, let's say, restricted corporate funding. Germany has a very unique type of funding. Although I will not still talk whether, let's say, it will not go in the structured way. So just let's take that 4 countries have this better practice. But before that, we were highlighting this scam. Then let's say we can highlight the scam related to, if you take corruption perception index, and on that corruption perception index, if you take any, let's say, name of the country which is highly corrupt, one major factor is also electoral malpractice. And you should know that corruption perception index, let's say, report has come for 2023, and in that 2023, India's rank has become 93. It has gone down, and its score has also declined to 39 from, I guess, 40. It used to be 40, from that it has gone down. So why it has gone down? Because of coming election. This next factor, if you take in political funding, is basically we are, let's say, more concerned about Lok Sabha election funding. Right. Means in our debate hardly we have assemblies and local government funding. Right. Imagine our debate is limited to only Lok Sabha election. Ye sara electoral bond, it is limited to Lok Sabha. This, we hardly talk about assembly elections and local bodies. If you combine together, coincidentally a study has come in this 2024, and that study says that we need 10 lakh crore. We need 10 lakh crore, let's say, means total political expenditure, election expenditure in our country, combining, let's say that ki union means ki Lok Sabha, assemblies and local bodies, it is 10 lakh crore. This, but it is still less. It is still less. How much? They'll say, yes, it is in rupee. Yes, yes.
What is the exact 10 lakh crore?
10 lakh crore is election expenditure. It is election expenditure of Lok Sabha, assembly and local bodies. This. Yes, yes, it has come basically September or October it came. Yes, it has given कि पंचायती राज में कितना खर्च होता है. They have accounted on the basis of their estimates. पंचायती राज, urban local bodies, इसी में एक टेबल दिया होगा. This, so पंचायती राज, urban local bodies, assemblies and etc. But let's say that कि any assembly will be spending how much? In assembly election, how much will be spending? It's how much political parties. Do we have any account? We don't have any account. Estimated account we have. This. So it will be still very nominal, you can consider, right? This given. Our debate and discourse is not on entire elections funding. Our debate and discourse has just remained limited to, you can say, elections, you can say Lok Sabha, and to some extent assembly election. This. Next aspect is system. System in place. Any kind of funding. Our country does not have a system in place to regulate any kind of funding. This, in that we are very still backward. But if you compare with other countries. So first we have to see, it's not about the US, what US practice it has, what we have, it's not about that. Let me tell that one basic aspect is that any candidate should have one dedicated account only for election expenditure, in which it should he should receive the funds, and that account details should be given to Election Commission. Do we have candidates having that account? Whether Election Commission verifies that? And can Election Commission dare to verify that to some case? But this is also requirement as per Representation of People Act. But do we enforce it? Let's say to some extent the Election Commission does it. What about local bodies election? Whether candidates maintain separate account, and whether Election Commission, State Election Commission is empowered to verify their account? Not at all. This, it is the basic element of any transparency in funding. It is not only political party. That's it. Each candidate who is going to stand in election should have one dedicated account only for election funding. And that account it should share with election commission. This. So this is called system in place. You will wonder, US का भी system updated नहीं. US system is said that it is as old as first iPhone was launched. एक आर्टिकल में उन्होंने ऐसे कंपेयर किया है. US election system is as old as when first iPhone was launched, and now we have iPhone. The US government has requested to US Congress to give us $5 billion so that we can improve our election system. And Congress has approved only $400 million. This is latest news. This. So it is not that we are facing the challenge. Right. This you can say it is a problem over there also, over here also. Why? But that's different thing. So there should be a system in place before you talk about any election funding. And you know that, okay, this why election funding is important, this all these things. So elections funding. Huge election expenditure, like as per 2024 India, we have told it is 10 lakh crore. And if you see 2019 election, so how much it is given? यूएस में एक एस्टिमेट दिया गया है कि फ्यूचर में यूएस का इलेक्शन का एक्सपेंडिचर $50 बिलियन भी हो सकता है. This. Now we have this again, whom we fund, parties, candidates. We fund parties and candidates. This. Now, basically, largely they can have public, private, individual, corporate, big, small. This. Direct, indirect. Already indirect is basically, let's say, this. Now, you should know that out of 116 countries, it is now updated, 68% countries adopted this. That day we gave you fact which was related to 2012, but it is now updated one because it is based on one WARF paper 2023. This. So out of 106, let's this, we have 68% countries following this public funding. हालांकि major still country, you know that US will fall still in this side, but that we do not want to tell. Basically what we want to tell is largely in elections they have the influence. They have the influence. They have the influence. When corporate influence, because huge, how the money will come? This much money will come from whom? This already we have M3. This money, muscle, power, and media. This. So I mean, this, let's say that money. The money is both. It can be white also, black also. This. तो मूर्खी होगा जो white money is fund करेगा. Sorry to speak this language, isn't it? So because here it comes, let's say that here it comes role of real estate, mafias, criminals, and business. This basically they have money. This. So when they have money and when we have this corporate influence, so basically they will have the influence. They have the influence. And when they have the influence, the parties forming the government, it forms the government, what it will do? Give return. It will give return to them. This. And no amount of your Lokpal, RTI, ये सब बकवास हो गया. फिर लोगों को बेवकूफ बनाने के लिए है वो. This, इसलिए कि the major aspect of, let's say that कि game you can consider is happening outside them. This. So that's why, let's say कि when scam is exposed, no investigation. When scam will be, let's say, exposed, investigation will not happen. When crime will be exposed, investigation will not happen. This. So basically they will keep controlling the system. This. And then policy and contracts and etc. will happen in their favor. Hence it will harm common good of society. This. It will harm common good of society, you can consider. And then citizens will not get justice. And then elections will not be free and fair. When there is their influence, big corporate influence. This. And there is no, let's say that we cannot say, we already know the facts. Right. So we already know the facts. Someone is writing that कि I'm 12th का student हूँ, IAS बनना है. तो आपके सीनियर लोग हैं इस क्लास में, आप बात कर सकते हैं कैसे IAS बनना है. राइट. ओपन क्लास में यही होता है. राइट. हालांकि civilized question है, isn't it? Right. Anyhow, let's come to this. So already you know these things, just we wanted to repeat it, why we need it. But that is how you know that all those, whatever the study you do, they will just try to link this. So basically, that's why you know that corporate, criminals, and those politicians, they are controlling the system rather than people controlling the system. So when we say that it's people's democracy, when we say that it's, let's say, ruled by people, by people, for people, of people, so these things become very simplistic, mockery thing. That's why, let's say, different countries have tried to, let's say, first thing that what purpose you can find this. Why they want to go for funding? So first is we can consider this free and fair election. We can consider this free and fair election. That is, let's say, corporate influence. This second is equal influence. Third is public good. This. So when we include corporate means funding, we are not talking funding in the sense like state funding. When you, why there should be funding and clean means that clean funding. Largely clean funding should be because of these things, right? Where let's say there should be dispersal of funding, right? Any such funding a country has, that let's say that funding should be not let's say that concentrated. These objectives basically can be achieved by let's say funding. First thing is it should be dispersed. It should not be concentrated. So all should fund. It's not that only let's say that this or that, let's say that all sort of people should fund election if it is, so that there is let's say elimination of undue influence. Then when funding is dispersed, there should be let's say transparency. Next factor is that there should be transparency. That is called reporting system. It should be reported. So that will happen. And next is called regulation. The regulating that kind of funding, there should be a system which can regulate it. So any political funding that we have, let's take any example. Let's see how US is funding. Even if it has a, let's say that corporate funding, if you give example of US. Right. So basically in 2010 there was judgment by US Supreme Court, and then let's say US Supreme Court judgment rejected any such public funding and capping on corporate funding. Thereafter there is no any capping on corporate funding. The capping on corporate funding is removed. Now let's say that in US elections corporates are free to fund. But that does not mean that government has, let's say, withdrawn itself. Right. Government regulates this. Government regulates, and it let's say that matches with fundraiser. Let's say if fundraiser has or any candidate has raised the fund from market, so that much fund it will also try to match. Right. For which it has put conditions. Conditions like minimum in 20 states. There are 50 states. Minimum in 20 states. In each state, or let's say 20 states, a candidate should be able to raise $1 lakh. Means in each state it will become almost $5,000. In each state, a candidate will try to, it is not given there. Right. These are a bit, let's say that details. So, we cannot exactly write what we teach that also. Right. What we are saying is that in US you'll know that a candidate in each state should, let's say, raise minimum fund $5,000, right? And let's say a person can contribute, let's say, $250. A person can contribute $250. If a person is contributing more than $250, government will not take that into account while calculating $5,000. It will just take maximum $250. It will, let someone has given $500. It will not take that into consideration. It will only take $250 denominations to calculate $5,000. And if it has $5,000, it can back by $5,000. Yes. And in 20 states, not in one state. So dispersal, this we say dispersal. And then it is matching with this. You know what is its benefit? Its benefit is that US is a country which funds candidates, not only party. Hence, it promotes intra-party democracy. It is a unique feature. And these are related to primaries elections. These are related to primaries elections, not Navi presidential elections. Right. It is primaries election where candidates fight for their primaries to get nominated from the party, and then presidential election happens. So it funds the candidates in primaries elections. So the benefit is that, first, let's say that it is, you can be a candidate but you lack fund, you may not contest election. That's why many good people do not come in politics. You should know this. In Aam Aadmi Party, many good people quit because Aam Aadmi Party started giving ticket to those people who can bring money. If you can have money, you can be also member of any political party. Yes. So that's why, let's say, Prashant Bhushan, Yogendra Yadav, that Kumar Vishwas, another sociology professor, Anand something, right? They quit. So this, let's say that this is how one aspect of this. It also funds presidential election, that is a different condition. We are just talking some positive aspect. Next thing is that you should know of US election, that it does not fund political parties only during elections. It funds political parties throughout the year. Because it considers political parties a non-profit entity and they have their political activities, hence they need funds throughout year to do their activities. Most of the countries fund political parties only during elections time. Now, you know that this is called Elections Assistant Commission, US Election Commission. Its name is Election Assistance Commission. This commission can verify these things. You have to report everything. They have to report. They can regulate it. It means there should be a system in place if you bring any reform. There should be a system in place you bring any reform. Now let's say in our country, what we have? 20,000, if you get political funding, you don't have to give any account. Up to 20,000, you don't have to get any account. And 2,000, up to 2,000, you can get cash. Why all these things? क्या किसी कंपनी को इतना छूट दिया जाता है कि इतना इनकम होगा तो आपको शो नहीं करना है, इसके बाद वाला इनकम शो करना है? Anyhow, we do not want to come on this. So this is what one example you can take. Now, if you take Germany,
So, but the US also has a two-party system, so it is much easier to execute basically.
yes, वो भी एक इशू है हमारे लिए. हमारे पास 1600 पार्टीज है. अभी तक तो मैंने पहले 500 ही बोलता था, बट अभी मैंने एक डॉक्यूमेंट पढ़ा है तो उसमें लिखा है कि वी हैव 600 पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज. Wait, this we have 600 political parties. Political parties वो भी एक इशू है. Right? Why you have so many number of political parties? इसमें से आधा तो सेल कंपनी है. Right? आधे का काम यही है, यहाँ का पैसा यहाँ करना. Right? उसका कोई पॉलिटिकल रोल ही नहीं है. It has been formed a political party to convert black money into white money, or let's say launder money. This is how it is. So this is called system in place. Can we regulate? Can we declare them defunct? Can we de-recognize them? This. So that's why state funding of election is not going to be successful because of this. Now Germany has another unique, let's say, practice. Let's say that it public funding plus means basically let's say private funding can be also, it can match also that funding. This. What it does, basically it has capped, let's say per vote, certain percentage of vote you get per vote, you will get this much euro dollar. And beyond that, you will get this much euro dollar. This. So basically what it has done is, when you are getting less number of votes, it pays more per euro dollar. It is something 0.8 something, let's say. And when beyond that you get more votes, it pays less euro dollar. Why it does? Small parties, marginal parties would also get benefit. This. They will also get benefit. They will not be eliminated. Like say in Bhutan, Bhutan has a condition that if you receive 10% of the vote, then state will fund. So those parties which are getting less than 10%, they will not fund. They will not be funded. They will be at loss. In our country also we say this. There should be capping. So when you have a capping, so small and marginal parties will not benefit. Its practice is very other way around. That at certain initial level of, let's say, vote, you get more money per, let's say, vote, and above that you get less money per vote. This. So that kind of system it has introduced. So this way we can say different countries have different practice. Now if you take Canada, so it has tried to completely eliminate corporate funding. Similarly, Sweden, it has tried to completely eliminate corporate funding. This. So largely, let's say political funding, if you take, the political funding has been, let's say both corporate funding and let's say public funding. Now in their corporate funding, all countries which have corporate funding, they will try to limit or cap it. There will not be unbound funding. Only in US election it has been done. This. But in US election, let's say US election and our election is different. This. Even if there is a corporate funding and unlimited in US does not have like us nexus and criminalization of politics. US will not have as much black money in its economy as we have black money in our economy. This. Hence, those corporates, basically corporates, they have been given freedom in US. Corporates can advertise and openly tell that you vote for this party. This. Corporates can openly advertise and they can tell to people that you vote for this party. But you can criticize or you can appreciate. You cannot implement in our country. This. Because there let's say people also have their wisdom. This and less vested interest. Anyhow, so if you take funding, let's say that funding which they have tried to bring reforms, so that is how you can say political funding, you can, sorry, public funding, you can say that. And this, in that public funding, we have written here this: no country will have, let's say, complete anyone. Right. Only small country like Sweden, Canada, they are capable of having complete public funding, because their election expenditure would be less, which we cannot follow. If you take UK, if you take Germany, if you take US, they will have both mixed type of funding pattern, in which public they can have, private they can have. In that, US has more, let's say, that freedom to corporate funding. Right. That kind of practice. Now all countries will have in kind. All countries give political funding in kind. In kind what? Free office space, free advertisement space for government. This, so on, let's say, national TV, etc., advertisement, income, let's say that tax, let's say that concession means facilities. They don't have to pay income tax on the funds they raise, that kind of thing. Or even we also give. And that money is also very high. According to when we teach RTI and political parties, there we say that BJP gets all these in-kind concession over 500 crore and Congress get over 150 crore. If you calculate all these concessions, because Central Information Commission, while passing the judgment that they should come under RTI, at that time, let's say, kind wala facility calculated exactly how much these things can be accounted. This, so already they are getting in kind this fund. Right. The issues are associated with this direct funding and then this funding. In this, the issue is in our country associated with individual also and corporate also. This, and in that corporate, it is the big corporate influence. This, because in case of individual funding, the 2,000 or less cash, you don't have to pay. Means you don't have to give details. Means, sorry, you can pay cash less than, let's say, 2,000 or less. And up to 20,000 of, let's say, political funding, you don't have to give any detailed account on that. This, so when individuals may fund, that is also not under transparency. And state, as of now, there is no direct funding by state. This, rather we have capping on individual candidate expenditure, which is as of now 90 lakh, isn't it? For MP 90 lakh. 90 लाख तो एक दिन का खर्च होगा. Right, 90 lakh, let's say that. Now let's take a single point. Whether Election Commission is able to verify that 90 lakh expenditure. This, does it verify that they have spent only 90 lakh? Right. This, so if you talk election funding practices by different countries, so first thing you should know, keep in mind, they have already in place better institutional mechanism. They have already in place better regulatory mechanism, and they have already in place effective institutional capacity. This, and they will have less black money in their economy. They will also have black money, but they will have less black money in their economy. But when we talk our country, the first key, even UK parliamentary democracy largely had two parties. UK, another democracy, it has largely two parties. We have 600 political parties. Forget about 600, you have 6, 7 or 5, 6, let's say that national parties. So many state parties. This. So somehow you can say that there is a regulatory mess. We have a regulatory mess. This, and in that we are talking funding of elections. This. So largely committees have given recommendations if you take. So already you may be aware about committees' recommendations. No committee has given any clear solution. Right. No one has given any clear solution. Right. What clear? Let's say Indrajit Gupta committee. It says partial funding of a state. This, not complete funding of a state. Then blah blah there. Let's say you can have law commission. (2015). This, it is given in that note. These committees are given at least. So it will also not talk very clearly what should you do. State funding होना चाहिए, regulation होना चाहिए, transparency होना चाहिए. This, basically let's say that what we have been, most important debate has been state funding. There should be state funding. There should be state funding of election. That on the basis of learning, let's say, best practices of other countries. But let me tell that the best practices of other countries, not all countries have been successful in, let's say, tackling or addressing the problems of election funding, even if they have brought reforms. Even US has not been able to address, like US and Israel. They are the two countries where even if state funding is there, elections expenditure, let's say, has increased. This. So here, even if we have state funding, election expenditure increases. This. So why state funding should be done when election expenditure increases and corporate influence remains? That's why US is still in a state of reform, in a state of flux, you can say that. It is still in a state of flux. It is not, it is settled. A model can be followed. Now, Russia has done, Russia has brought state funding of election. But what it has done is that by state funding, it has brought such, let's say, provisions which would empower ruling party and all opposition parties will be disempowered. This. So many times state funding of election is supporting the ruling party. This. Second, it has not minimized, election expenditure. Only country which have minimized election expenditure, the 4 countries that we have written: Japan, Canada, Germany, and Sweden. US has not minimized, Israel has not minimized. It has not been still successful in South Africa. This. So basically it shows also the challenge, let's say, that when we have state funding of election, there are also challenges, that how to regulate it. Like in our country, when state funding of election is said, first it is said that we should fund parties. We should fund parties, not candidates. And when you fund parties, you will have to cap it. नहीं तो 1600 का 16,000 हो जाएगा. This 1600 political parties you have, हम भी political party बनाएंगे. Sorry to say that. जब पैसा ही मिलने वाला है, 2-4 लोग हमें भी वोट दे देंगे. This. So basically the challenge is, right, see, the day you cap it, so small and marginal parties will not benefit, and it will benefit the big parties. This. And even if you go for funding, let's say expenditure is not going to reduce. It is not going to reduce. Then should we go for funding? What is the option? What other options we can have? Right. So let give you another good example of US. What they do is that कोई भी जब टैक्स पे करता है यूएस में तो $3 का एक ऑप्शन आता है that would you like to pay $3 of your tax in election fund? Yes. अगर वो yes पे क्लिक करता है तो वो $3 इलेक्शन फंड में जाएगा yes. गवर्नमेंट के पास जो पार्टीज को वो फंड करेगी इसलिए कि दे हैव continuous basis of funding of political parties. This and they do not fund only national. Try to understand. Federal government, US Congress gives fund to states and local bodies. In our country, debate is still shifted at, let's say, only local bodies तो कहीं आते ही नहीं है. This our debate is at national level. This अब कोई भी let's say कि अगर कोई पे कर रहा है टैक्स, this is how, although it has been recommended by law, let's say that कि one committee has recommended also that कि we can impose cess, right? Basically corporate Indian वो chamber of commerce, right? Yes. उसका नाम क्या है? The CCI, yes, CCI also and Chamber of Commerce, let's say that, right? They have recommended to impose election cess. This election cess, this you can consider. But election cess will be putting burden on people. Cess will put burden on people, and it is, if you take ethics paper, against free will. Right. But if you talk about this, let's say $3, would you like? There is free will also, means your freedom is also there, and it is not putting burden on all people. This, so this kind of novel practice, which let's say you can think. So basically, let's say state funding should be done, right, with bringing some system in place. Without bringing system in place, state funding will become counterproductive. This, because state will also, let's say, fund public money, and already they are also funding. They will take over and above. Right. Once N. Vittal told that why corruption should not be legalized. Means out of irritation he told basically, but he did not know that once suppose corruption is legalized, then it becomes a legal money and then over and above again. This. So it means like state funding, it means we will have to have private. There should be private funding. This. And when there should be private funding, so that is what you need to, let's say that diversify it. Disperse private funding. Right. It means the government will have to bring, right, after this judgment, right, reforms. It will have to bring reforms, because without corporate funding or let's say private funding, we cannot fund elections. This. And as of now, let's say electoral bond system, you can consider the way electoral bond is. Already you know that most of the funds have come in 1 crore denomination. This, it favors, let's say, corporate. This, so funding of election, if you talk, another idea has been given that you should create one national election fund. That day class we told that we should have national election fund, and this national election fund will be with Election Commission of India. This, and you can bring fund also here from this private, and government then can also match with not in National Election Fund. But yes, it can fund on the basis of this, you can say, percentage of vote. But if you do not do capping, so more political parties will come, and if you do capping, so marginally small parties will not benefit. Means we are in a state of indecision, basically. Now, basically, we have given also two more debates. Once there was a debate between Yogendra Yadav versus S.Y. Qureshi. This. In 2019, basically, this debate happened. Yogendra Yadav has a good idea. Good idea is that he says each vote should be funded. Model of European countries, especially you can say that Germany model. If each vote is funded, तो उन्होंने कैलकुलेट किया है कि टोटल कितना खर्च होगा. तो जितने इलेक्टोरेट्स हैं उसके हिसाब से आप खर्च देख लो. This we have the number of electorates, and those number of electorates, let's say that each electorate, let's say के लिए how much per vote we should spend. This, so it does not become very huge sum. Certainly, it does not become 10 lakh crore. This, so this way, and he says, and his point is also right, because good people will not come unless you minimize election expenditure. Good people will not come in politics. Rather, there is another way of corporatization of politics. According to another research, we have 29%, let's say MPs from corporate. It is corporatization of parliament, which is another emerging issue. अभी नहीं आएगा, वो 4-5 सालों के बाद इसके ऊपर डिबेट आएगा. One research paper was published 4-5 years back. This 29% members are from corporate. Why? Corporate entry has been in legislature because they have money. Then elections, already you know that. P. Sainath or already you know this, all these things. The richer you are, the better the chance to win election. And if you are a millionaire, 50% chance to win. And billionaire to 100% हो जाएगा फिर. So elections are about money then. It is again same issue. Where is the democracy? Anyhow, just let to tell that the state will have to state will have to support. So it can go by, let's say, funding each vote, but there is no any debate on this matter. You should know that there is no any debate on the government side on this matter. Even the committee commissions which recommend, they recommend 4-5 lines on that. ना? और एक पैराग्राफ, एक पेज वो लिख देगा, या 4 कंट्री का एग्जाम्पल दे देगा, उसके बाद लिख देगा कि वी शुड फोकस, फाइंड आउट फिजिबिलिटी ऑफ स्टेट फंडिंग. किसी ने डिटेल एक देख से कि बैंड एक मैट्रिक्स नहीं प्रिपेयर किया है कि होना क्या चाहिए. No committee has provided a detailed blueprint that कि how exactly we can fund and what those steps we need to take. Rather, it remains at generic level that this should be done. We should learn from best practices. This, so this we can say that S.Y. Qureshi, he knows the nuts and bolts of that system. He is fully aware about that. In his book, he highlighted 40 different types of tareka to, let's say that those election rules, bypass election rules. Political parties know that. 40 different ways how they can bypass the, let's say, election regulations. And when he was giving this lecture, he says, by the time I wrote my book, some more types they may have innovated. Right. So what he says is that unless you bring system in place, what system in place? Political parties, you are a trustee, you get regulated. Right. You get regulated the way you are regulating NGOs. Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. This, so political parties, they have the huge fund, such money you are spending, so why you are not regulated? First thing that ki political parties should get regulated, their accounts should be audited by any such independent auditor under the supervision of CAG. And political parties should conduct elections by election commission, so that they have elected functionaries rather than so I generally speak Maurya Kautilya, but in that language you will not understand. Gradually you'll understand if you have some more classes. Yes. अब जैसे मान लेते हैं, छोड़ो नेशनल बात छोड़ दो, लेते हैं दीदी के बात लेते हैं. डू यू थिंक कि टीएमसी में कोई डेमोक्रेसी होगा? टीएमसी में कोई डेमोक्रेसी होगा? वो एक ही डेमोक्रेसी है. The queen is law unto herself. This, उसी तरह से सारे रीजनल पार्टी का हालत है. बीजू जनता दल, नवीन पटनायक, दिस शिवसेना, पता ही है, वो तो पहले से ठाकरे का लेगेसी है. दिस, सो समाजवादी पार्टी, दिस आरजेडी, नीतीश कुमार, आप किसी भी बात कर लो, all political parties, their birth is democratic, their work is undemocratic. Yes. Birth is democratic because they have formed their political party to give justice or right to the people, talk for people. But the way they function is undemocratic. Hence, they will not like to get regulated. And all these national parties, you know that. Can it happen in Western countries? Right. Elections are conducted for their party functionaries. Next, election agenda, they cannot adopt anything. You should know this. Election agenda they can adopt only after approval of election commission. This, हमारे यहाँ we will double farm income. Right. After election, वो तो ऐसे ही बोल दिया था. This, so उसके बाद वो नॉमिनल है कि रियल है? This, we will give you 20 lakhs job. How? Do you have any calculation? No any calculation. Basically, you have to understand this. We are in a very transition stage of this, let's say, democracy, society, election, where let's say कि whatever you can talk, yes, you can have some way forward कि ये होना वो होगा, but we are still not clear कि how to fund elections. This, an electoral bond was not a right step. You should know this. Reform should have taken a right step. They should have taken. Rather, it has taken us, let's see that 5 years back, where we started, we have gone there. And they knew the flaws because RBI also told that you don't adopt it, and Election Commission of India is also saying you don't adopt it. Okay. Both two institutions, which one regulates the financial sector, another regulates the election, you ignore their views. And if you see the past judgments, we have told some of the today case laws. Already in past courts I have told that. This, and still that law has been brought. It was not supposed to survive 2019. It should have been struck in 2018 itself. Right. Then you could have some other reforms. This debate. अब तो इलेक्शन आ गया, तो टाइम भी नहीं है डिबेट का कि क्या होना चाहिए. This is a challenge, let's say that, and challenge is that कि private funding, any private funding, चाहे वो कैश में दे रहा है या कैन में दे रहा है या 20,000 है या 2,000 है, all funds that you receive, give the detailed account. वाई ये रूल क्यों होना चाहिए कि इतने का आप डिटेल अकाउंट नहीं देंगे? राइट, यहाँ हमारे कोई भी इंस्टीट्यूट से, हमारा इंस्टीट्यूट नहीं, यहाँ एक एक पैसा जो खर्च होता है तो टैक्स पे करने से बिल से बैक करना पड़ता है उसमें। ठीक, और हम भी कैश में खर्च करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं कि गवर्नमेंट ही सिर्फ कैश में खर्च करती है, बट कैश का भी खर्च का अकाउंट देना पड़ता है, नहीं तो उधर जीएसटी वाले का आ जाएगा नोटिस, बिल कहां है? So let's say कि citizen you can say, or a person you can say that कि you want every coin detail. This you have TDS. This so that you can track the transaction. But for whom? Citizens. This there should not be any, let's say that कि waiver, any such funding that you have, you should give it to election commission. This first we told that ki political parties, what system should be in place? Political parties should be, it should have internal party democracy, accounts should be audited, it should come under RTI purview, and all the funds that they receive, public or private, this that should be, let's say that ki reported, not ki 20,000 below we don't have to give account. This section should not be. This that should be in place. Plus non-election related steps you need to take. Non-election related ki black, you have to tackle black money in elections, sorry, black money in economy, reduce black money in economy. Are we taking steps to reduce black money in economy? Because if there is black money in economy, there will be black money in elections. Next, corporate the contracts जो आप दे रहे हो, there should be greater transparency. The contracts that you give to corporates, the policy that you make to corporate. And next, anti-corruption institutions, you make them necessarily anti-corruption oriented. This so that if other society scam is, let's say, exposed, so all those who are involved are punished. So you have to minimize scams, minimize black money in the economy, regulate elections, and bring state funding of elections, including, let's say that ki, from top to bottom, the three hierarchy. This for which each candidate who is filing, एक सुप्रीम कोर्ट का इस पे भी अब जजमेंट होना चाहिए कि each candidate should have a separate account, right? Only for election, if you want to become a candidate, that should happen, and that is how also suggested there should be simultaneous holding of election. This, but ये तो और भी difficult है. This simultaneous holding of election, because the study which has told कि India needs 10 lakh crore as election expenditure, it has said that if you introduce simultaneous holding of election, so it will reduce to 2 to 3 lakh crore. This, but reports are conflicting in nature. Another report says that कि holding of simultaneous election will account 10 lakh crore as expenditure. क्या करोगे आप? Conflicting research. किसी ने बताया है it will result into 10 lakh crore. कैसे बताया है पता नहीं. This, but ये वाला स्टडी कह रहा है कि it will reduce your election expenditure to 2 to 3 lakh crore. But simultaneous election तो होगा ही नहीं. It is not feasible. Why it is not feasible? You are making and breaking the government. This, you cannot have defection politics, criminalization of politics, and at the same time simultaneous elections. This means you have to improve also public morality. Right. Public means any funding in elections will become successful, transparent, if we improve also morality of people in politics. That is called political morality. Without political morality, we will not be able to also, let's say that effectively ensure transparency and accountability in elections. And hence things will continue like this. And after 5 years, 10 years, another debate we will have. By that time, you may have become IAS. Yes. Because we have habit of episodic discussion. Right. Episodic means कि कभी एक बार debate हुआ था election funding जब S Qureshi and this योगेंद्र यादव 2018-19 के बाद, और अभी 2024 में we are taking this class, isn't it? This after electoral board judgment, nothing has changed in between that. That is what we can tell.
Are we in favor of revealing the data?
Yes, yes.
Regarding the donors who donated below 20,000, are we in favor of revealing the data?
Yes.
But sir, considering the political culture we have in India, we have more of a subject type culture. So will not that lead to retribution against them? Why not? Sir, in Karnataka recently we have seen that shops which had their sign, which did not have the sign in Kannada, their shops were broken. So such a simple thing as that can lead to such acts of violence against them. So if the people they become aware that a shop has donated to a party which is not in power, people of that particular party will they not do anything against the particular shop or not?
Yes, you are right. Let me tell the other way. When Aam Aadmi Party came to power, it has its website on which it mentioned all the details of funding. And all those who funded, the names of also those who funded, which S Qureshi used to appreciate. And even he went to foreign countries, he took the name of Aam Aadmi Party and appreciated. So when he was appreciating in any foreign country, तो उन्होंने देखना चाहा कि वेबसाइट पे कौन सा ऐसा पार्टी है जो ये सारा डिटेल देता है, राइट? तो उन्होंने जब वेबसाइट पे गए तो वो था ही नहीं. फिर एस वाई कुरैशी ने डायल किया आम आदमी पार्टी में किसी को, बोला यार हम तो आई वॉज अप्रिशिएटिंग योर पार्टी एंड व्हाई यू हैव, you know what Aam Aadmi Party replied? Right. All those who were funding to Aam Aadmi Party, they are having raids by, you know that. देखो दोनों चीज नहीं हो सकता है. That is why you told morality. दोनों चीज नहीं हो सकता है ना. इलेक्ट्रल रिफॉर्म्स भी लाओ, क्लीन पॉलिटिक्स भी करो, or let's say that you give some ways to, let's say, maintain the loopholes in the system. This. So this is what we have to understand. That's why I told that anti-corruption institutions should be made necessarily anti-corruption, right? Not revenge institute. This you should know that. So unless they become, means you have to take non-political, means non-electoral reform related steps also. Yes. Otherwise it will not be possible. So when you say 20,000, they can show that most of the people have less than this contribution. This already बहुजन समाज पार्टी saying कि सारा उन्होंने चिल्लर्स में ही लिया था, लोगों ने क्वाइन में दिया था सपोर्ट, 10-10 रुपए का क्वाइन दिया था बहुजन समाज पार्टी को. This because it says that all that contribution was below 2,000. This तो mockery है ना, it is the mockery of the system. This if you really let's say political parties want to have anything, let's say clean politics, then there should be consensus why political parties should not be regulated. This you regulate everything but political party and media, you do not regulate political party and media, and real estate is not under regulation. जहाँ ये तीनों का आप regulate करो, अपने आप matter is addressed. Because real estate में black money है जिससे political parties को पैसा जाता है, मीडिया जो है वो पता ही है कि वो पेड न्यूज चलाते हैं, एंड देन इट सर्व्स द पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट। तो रूट कॉज तो एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा। दैट डिमांड्स नेशनल लेवल डिस्कोर्स एंड कंसेंसस, मींस नेशनल नॉट कंसेंसस बट एट लीस्ट डिस्कोर्स। But political parties do not have discourse, so what you will do? We and you will talk only those things. Nothing is going to happen. This is what we can say. So there should not be any such kind of what we can say, exception. More the exception you have, then the policy will not work. This. In fact, you think that we are such in a vacuum कि we do not have any system in place at all. कुछ ऐसा प्रैक्टिस ही नहीं है जिसको आप अप्रिशिएट कर सको कि हमारे इलेक्शन में ये अच्छा है। बाकी के कंट्रीज में तो मान लो थोड़ा बहुत इधर उधर कुछ आप बोल सकते हो कि हाँ ये वो है, ऐसे कर रहे हैं वैसे कर रहे हैं। In our country, do we have any practice in elections only that this is a good practice? Yes, you can have that, let's say, practice, but by Election Commission of India, right? Not by political parties, right? And government. This is what we can say. This. So this is what you should know already. Answer लिखने लायक तो already आपको पता है, right? This. We just wanted to have one analysis on this. Still, it is difficult to do justice because if you read other countries, so if you want to know basically good insight about state funding, there is a very good paper by ORF on state funding of election. Largely, our source of knowledge is also that. This because it has given also name of John Rawls, which we spoke in last class. John Rawls, John Locke, Robert Dahl. Their name they have given. How John Locke that time has, let's say, that he mentioned that the party is a trustee and party has to work, it is his statement, party has to work only in public interest. So those things can be considered. Shall we finish it? No. Okay, right.